10th, 2021 evening session of the Nelson County Board of Supervisors. First order of business is public comments. If you intend to speak on any of the issues that are included under public hearings, this is not your time to speak. If you want to speak about some other issue before the board, this is your opportunity. So if anyone would like to speak during public comments, I'll open the public comment period. Okay, and we close the public comment period and move on to public hearings. The first public hearing has to do with the special use permit number 326 for a banquet hall.
So this is a request for a special use permit for a banquet hall on property zoned A1 agriculture. It's located at 8761 Irish Road in the Central District. This parcel is just under 320 acres in size. The applicant is TAW Construction out of Ashland. The owner is Magic Mountain Farm, owned by Randy Sklar. The property is currently being utilized for agricultural and residential purposes. A banquet hall is defined as a facility for hosting public and or private events, including but not limited to weddings, receptions, social events or parties and or workshops, which is used as a venue for social, cultural, recreational, and or educational activities. Banquet halls do not include lodging accommodations. The applicants are proposing to construct a 4,496 square foot structure to be utilized as a banquet hall. The Planning Commission public hearing was held on June 23rd, at which there were 6 speakers in opposition to the proposal. The Planning Commission requested information including a full site layout, the size of the proposed structure, the proposed entrance location with VDOT's comments, frequency of events, traffic management plan, and requested that the owner be present to address questions and concerns. Attached with your report is the response from the applicant. You also have a packet of public comments we received by email. 3 of those are just in front of you tonight, so we received those after your packets went out. In total, from all your emailed public comments, there are 6 in support of the project and 4 in opposition. And one of those 4 said they were not opposed to the barn, they were just opposed to the entrance location. Zoning in the vicinity is A1. There are no 100-year floodplains on this property. The 2 dwellings on the property are accessed by 2 separate entrances on Irish Road and Rock Springs Road. The proposed entrance to access the banquet hall is located on Church Lane. I received comments from VDOT today, which you also have the email in front of you. The intersection site distance plan sheet dated August 6, 2021 demonstrates the proposed entrance location satisfies VDOT's minimum requirements for a commercial type entrance, and no site distance easement is required from adjoining property owners. The sewage disposal system will be required to be designed by an engineer and approved by the health department, and the well will be required to be approved by the Office of Drinking Water. Because land disturbance is proposed to exceed 1 acre, an erosion and sediment control plan is required, as well as a stormwater management plan through DEQ. The property is located in an area designated rural and farming on the comprehensive plan, which would promote agricultural uses and compatible open space uses, but discourage large-scale residential development and commercial development that would conflict with agricultural uses. The rural and farming district would permit small-scale industrial and service uses that complement agriculture. At their meeting on July 28th, there was a motion to recommend approval with the conditions listed below. The motion failed with a tie vote of 3-3. Opposing votes indicate that the request is not compliant with SUP requirements from the zoning ordinance, which you also have in front of you this evening. I'll go through the conditions that were recommended for approval. A final site plan in compliance with the plan dated July 13th shall be approved by all appropriate agencies with the entrance location on Church Lane. Parking area and structure be screened with landscaping from adjoining properties and roadways. Lighting be directional and glare shielded to prevent pollution to adjoining properties, roadways, and the dark night sky. Amplified noise shall be directed away from roadway and adjoining properties. And these additional conditions were submitted by the applicant. The owner or event manager will be on site for each event. Large events, which are 70 or more cars, limited to 3 per week in the months of June and October. Large events limited to 3 per month in March, April, May, and September. Large events limited to 2 per month in January, February, July, August, November, and December. Sunday through Thursday, amplified noise does not start until after 12 p.m. and stops by 9 p.m., with the event ending at 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday, amplified noise does not commence until after 9 a.m. and stops by 10 p.m., and the event will end by 9. Traffic control will be in accordance with the event traffic management plan in accordance with VDOT requirements. And the church worship services and associated activities held in the facility are exempt from the limited number of activities and amplified noise commencement time. Traffic management and termination times still apply. One last item I want to point out is after discussing with the owner last week, as some of you probably know, that once a special use permit, should it be approved by the Board of Supervisors, the special use authorized has to be established, or any construction authorized to be commenced and diligently pursued within a year from the approval date of the permit. The Board of Supervisors does have the authority to grant extended time to that. And so tonight, if the special use permit is approved, the applicant's requesting an extension of 2 years for a total of 3 years to complete the project. That's all I have for you tonight. If you have questions for me, I'll be glad, and the applicant has a presentation as well.
Thank you, Ms. Bishop. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Bishop about this?
You said, how many acres does this sit on currently?
Just under 320.
320. And so the particular ask that he has is that basically it's going to be an event venue. Just to make sure I'm correct. Who were the 3 nays from the Planning Commission?
They were Philip Approval, Ernie Reed, and Mark Stapleton.
So that was 2 central representatives in the north. Now, another question is, as it relates to this particular land, it's zoned A1, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And on A1, obviously, there's many things that you're allowed to do, correct? I mean, like you can do a farm brewery, farm winery, and there's no limitation on the size of a home someone can build, correct?
That's correct.
Yes. By right events. What is by right? They can have a by right wedding.
Yes, so social temporary events are by right use in the agriculture district. That's with the caveat that you can only have 12 such events a year, less than 300 people. Noise ordinance has to be adhered to, but there's no permanent infrastructure associated with that.
Got it. So, but otherwise it'd be all outside.
Correct. They could.
That can include amplified music.
Correct, and they could receive temporary tent permits from the building inspections office.
Okay.
But any permanent infrastructure or buildings associated with events would require
Certainly.
special use.
Got it. That's all the questions for the moment.
Anybody else? Okay. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
I thought I was going to be saying all that. The barn's gonna be a 4,500 square foot barn, with a, roughly 4,500, with a parking lot area out front.
I'm sorry, can you give your name and address, please?
Excuse me,
Microphone.
Randy Sklar, the address is 8761 Irish. So this is the general design of the barn. As close to a barn as we can get it, and this is the proposed entrance there on Church Lane in the distance from each road. The barn sits down lower, topology doesn't show it here, but so try to tuck it away as much as we could from neighboring properties and people that have a view site. There's a fair amount of trees on the back side and on the front side along Church. We did get notice from the VDOT that approved it.
Where's the property line? You have another.
Yeah, so the property runs along Irish, and then it turns down Church, and then down Rock Spring, and basically everything you see there, yellow box with the white square in the middle, all of that is part of the property.
Where's the church there?
It's down in the bottom corner, center bottom where
Near
they,
the right space.
yeah, where it says Rock
And you have
Spring.
a driveway where that arrow is with barn.
Yeah, laser on that.
I'm putting it. Yeah. And there's a new driveway you're putting in or fixing?
Right, exactly, yeah. So there's an existing driveway, you can see where it says Irish Road, there's a driveway above that that's been there for, I don't know how long, probably since long before we were here. And then there's a new driveway, well, it's an old driveway that we recarved in down at the bottom where that arrow that points down from the barn, it pretty much lines, have it go to the right a little bit, yeah, right there. I don't wanna hit the wrong button. And then there's a house, down, new house is right there where that red dot is, roughly, actually a little bit further down, but, show me how it's on. Yeah, so the new house is gonna be about right there, and then there's a driveway that runs along this row of trees and connects right there to Rock Spring Road. But the new entrance, this is, this entrance would not be, there's a road that comes through and then by these barns and then up the back side. But this would not be an appropriate location, and neither would this. This is the best option that we were able to come up with. And I think it's also important to note that, Route 29 runs up here, and it doesn't matter if you're going north or south. It leads you down Irish and then turns right and then right again. Oh, excuse me, right again into the drive.
So where's 6?
6 is right here. This is Route 6, comes all the way down. Okay. And so, you come in, you turn right, and you're done, and it will direct all traffic back. There's no reason for anybody to go in this direction unless they're lost or live down this way, which is a few homes in that direction, and that would make sense for those folks, but I don't think there'll be many attending our events.
What are those buildings,
Sir?
it says 800 feet. There's a string of buildings up there.
This is
go on there.
900, yeah.
What are they?
These?
Yeah.
So this house right here belongs to Byron. He's been renovating it. He's currently living in our, it's up here, the house that's on the property. He's been there since I bought it. And he was blindsided with the sale and was upset and thought I was going to kick him out. And I said, I don't have any purpose to do that. And so he stayed. And all along he's been staying there. He's been working on this home. And he tells me every month he's definitely leaving the next month. And he said that for the last 18 months. And I said, as long as you need. I don't pressure him, and I enjoy it. Become a friend. So I think he's a really nice fellow. So. And we're planning on doing landscaping, anything that's disrupted, but around the barn area, we would want to put nice trees and plants. And if we needed to put up a barrier here of trees to help Byron, he's probably the only person outside of the church or maybe this lady over here that's going to have a sight of it. When I stand down here, I can see the top of the steeple on top of the church. So obviously once it's erected, it'll be higher. But I don't have any problem putting a row of trees. I don't want to obstruct their view if they want to see it. It's really, it can go either way as far as I'm concerned. I want to do what's right for the neighbors as much as I can, as little as they are excited about the project. Not all of them, I should say. Any large events that we have, we're going to hire an event management group to direct traffic out. So this could be a rough turn right here. So we want to have, safety for the community and for the people coming to visit. And so that's in the plan as well. We could, redirect them a different way, but I really don't want to send traffic down this way. I want to keep everybody going in this direction. I'm willing to work with the church on their schedule of any events. I understand there's some events that can't be planned, such as a funeral. Most of our events are going to happen in the evening, naturally with weddings. And, there may be conflict, and then so that might be a case for putting up a barrier. When I bought the property, there was a couple of, I don't think it was a headstone, but there was a memorial tree or something here that belonged to the Liddens. And they wanted to make sure they had access, so I just had them carve out maybe an acre or so of land, and just gave it to the church. Trying to create opportunities for people in the community for work. I've extended an opportunity to Ben, Fire and Son, to chop wood for, fire or whatever. Was going to have a fireplace in there, for a 12-year-old, and make some scratch money for that. That'd be great, I think, for him. And anybody else in the community. And I've invited as many people as is interested over to fish in the pond. I've got fishing rods, and some have taken me up on that. And, I'm here a lot on my own. I could always use a fishing partner. So my dog ruins the fishing, gets in the water. So. I don't have, our long-term plan is, we have 5 kids, and they're going to multiply and have kids of their own, hopefully. And so when they have, we have big Thanksgiving events or Christmas or any of that, that's the long-term plan, is to have them all come and have these big events at the barn. That's our soon-to-be wife, and that's her daughter. And we hope that that's the future. And we're bringing cattle out within the next month out in this pasture. And we hope to continue to preserve it as much as we can. I don't want to take away, I don't want to develop a big neighborhood. I don't have any intentions of doing anything that's not a farm, a barn and some cattle, and that's kind of the effects that we're looking for.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Sklar? Okay.
One question I have.
Yes.
Well, actually, a couple.
All right.
One concern that I have had from people, I know Byron. Byron's my friend. Byron's very positive towards you, let me tell you.
We've become really good friends.
But there is, other people have expressed concern about the turnoff from 6. And-
Turning back on it when you're coming back out.
Yeah, well, just coming off and on Route 6.
So the entrance isn't on Route 6.
Yeah, so you're gonna come up 6, turn, and then
okay.
turn. So it's 2 right turns. So you're not crossing over.
What about the road, the turn off 6? Is that a problem?
Not at all, because it's a right
Look,
turn.
I heard about it, and I drove up there and looked around, and so I didn't understand that.
All right.
That road, but if that's a bad turn off 6, is that a concern for you?
So turning right from 6 on the church poses very little to no risk to anybody coming up 6 or anybody coming up church and turning left, because they'll be turning right. So they won't be crossing over.
And that road runs on an angle, as you can see.
When you leave, that's the challenge.
Yeah.
This angled road, when it hits 6, you've got to look down here, and it's downhill, and you can see cars. You've got to look. If you're crossing the road, you're going to look. She just got her learner, and she's looking, and so, but it is a hard angle. I don't disagree. And so that's why I propose for larger events to bring in an event management to direct the traffic. Have somebody stand here, because this is a hump right here, and I want to have people slow down. I've seen the local people. I don't blame them. They're just going home.
Do you see any alternative?
Well, this was an alternative, which really isn't. That's not a better option. No. And then this down here, backtracking down. Well, I think VDOT had a problem with this curve here. Is that correct?
We had a problem with Irish as well as.
With both. So we don't have much of a choice in where we do it, but this is the best. And I've spoke to everybody over here, and they have this line of trees here that prevents us from seeing it, but it's up, and then this is downhill, so they couldn't see that those trees. I don't think they could see.
But that's not your entrance on the Route 6, that's the state highway's entrance.
This right here?
Yeah, no, come on down, right
Yes.
there.
That's Church Lane meeting up with Route 6. That
Right,
has
that's what I'm
nothing to
saying,
do
that's
with-
a highway intersection, not a
Right.
private
That's
intersection.
not, yeah,
Yeah, this has been here.
that's both state.
Yes,
Both
I would love for them to, find a solution. I mean, I guess it's been like this for
A long
years.
time.
very long time, probably before Garth made it down there.
So.
The other question.
Yes, sir.
Had to do with one of these letters. And the family that you bought the property from, and this is no legal proceeding, I'm not trying to.
No, it's okay.
Said that you sent the woman a note that you had no intention of developing the land.
I understand. I read the letter.
Yeah.
This afternoon. So I've never spoke to them until the spring when they put their house up for sale. I asked that they give me a first right at it, and they did. And the amount that it was bringing was far more. I could have built a brand new house on my own property right next door for far less. And I don't fault them at all. That's their right. They can do what they want. But we never met or spoke. I worked through my realtor and he talked to their realtor. I never wrote a note that I'm aware of. I never verbally said anything to anybody. I don't think I'm developing. I'm putting a barn on the property. So developing to me
Do you have any other enterprises that are similar to this?
to a barn.
No, to a wedding.
I don't own a wedding event business. I own another business in the Richmond area, IT services, but I don't own. This was a dream. This was an accidental dream that, we're trying to come true. We're getting
Well,
there.
the first thing I noticed when I went there, it's funny, I lived in Nelson County for 40 years, and it never ceases to amaze me. I find beautiful places that I've never seen before. And I compliment you on your taste. This is a beautiful place.
The day that our realtor brought us, we had been looking for years for a place. I don't think I was there for 30 seconds and knew this was, I didn't even ask how much, and I was just knew.
It really
It's
is.
a phenomenal, it's amazing.
And you can see why the people there feel fortunate to live where they are.
I don't fault them at all. I completely understand. I totally understand their position. I do. And Byron's family's been there for probably 100 years.
Oh.
And I told them, it's like, it's their land and I'm borrowing it, I'm just there to he said something to me the other day, he was asking about a fireplace or something in the old house, and I said, it's yours, I mean, you can have it. He was asking if he can have it, and there's like a piece of farm equipment in one of the sheds, and he says, is it okay if I have it? I said, it's yours, of course.
For me personally, it's a very difficult decision.
I understand.
To
Um,
make, because
Mr.
the
Barton?
character of Nelson County is very important.
Normally, and this is my fault, I apologize. Normally, we keep, the deeper discussion until after the public hearing, because then we get a chance to hear from everybody else. So if we have other questions and other issues to bring, we can do it
At the
after.
end.
I
After
think
the public hearing.
Scott had something.
Yeah, can you give your name and address, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Scott Courtney. I am with Resource International, the civil engineering firm that's working on this project. I live at 6279 Tammy Lane, Mechanicsville. So one of the things that we've been talking about the various aspects of the project, and one of the things that we want to make sure that we try to address and mitigate the project is, and Randy's already mentioned it, having some landscaping. The landscaping specifically is required to go around the parking lot to hide the lot, as well as some of the light fixtures. Our light fixtures are going to end up being shoebox, which are full cutoff, downward facing, dark sky, night sky compliant. As you heard earlier tonight, there was a restriction on the time of the events, as well as the activities and the noise for the music. So again, no issue with abiding by the time restrictions. We talked as well, and in the Planning Commission, there was a lot of time spent on the frequency of the events that were to take place. I think we finally came up with 48, right?
There was some question. It wasn't 48, Dylan? I can't even remember.
So then as well, we've talked about traffic control, and again, what we are very concerned about and want to make sure is, especially not only the large events, getting people in, keeping them off of Church Lane, keeping them inside the property, but as well the exit to get them back on to ultimately Route 29 or some portion of Route 6. And so then, therefore, we have a traffic management plan that was a part of the documents that were requested by the Planning Commission. And so we do say that we will have a firm that will take care of getting people in and out of the property as well as back onto the roads, which may actually require Sheriff's Department, State Police, someone like that for the Route 6 Church Lane intersection to make sure that people can safely get there.
Okay.
So one of the things I want to make sure that we talk about tonight, because it is a very important aspect, it is something that we need to address as far as a special use permit, and that's the evaluation criteria. We talked about having roughly 48 large events, and again, that's a maximum, and certainly would like to have that. If those events lasted 4 hours, if they did last 4 hours, 192 hours for all of those events, okay? Out of 8,760 hours within a year, we are talking about 2% of the time. 2%, okay? Let me tell you a story. The other night I took a piece of fish out of the freezer. Its characteristic was it was frozen. It was cold. Slapped it on the grill, brought it back inside, gave it to my wife. She said, "What's this?" I said, it's grilled fish. She says, "Yeah, but only this little bit." I said, "Well, that's 2%. It's good, okay? It's grilled." She said, No. It's still frozen. All right, 2% doesn't make or change the characteristics. So my statement is tonight, 2% of the activities on this parcel don't change the characteristics of the community. The barn sits there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The barn is there. It doesn't change the characteristics either. It's a farm. Barns on farms are pretty much expected, certainly not a surprise, certainly blends in with the community, the area. The barn itself is actually smaller than the firehouse that is down the road, okay? The parking lot, the area that is developed for the firehouse is actually going to be slightly bigger than the area of what we're going to be developing on the 320 acres. So even if I were to say that this facility on 320 acres actually winds up to be 0.6% of the property. The barn doesn't change the characteristics of the property, doesn't change the characteristics of the community either. So when we talk about the use shall be in harmony with the uses permitted by right, we've already sort of had questions about that. So yes, social temporary events, a church, we have a church that's right there at the corner. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of activity at the church for social events, funerals, weddings. They certainly are by right able to do that. Certainly COVID has limited that possibility, but there have also been, quite frankly, a trend away from church weddings. Since 2017, church weddings have dropped almost 40%. All right. Now, part of that's by COVID, but that's just the trend that's been happening. People, younger kids want to go to the beach. They want to go to a winery. They want to go somewhere else. This allows them to do that. It still fits in with the by right uses. So does a farm winery. So does, I think there's also what is it called? Farm brewery that's also allowed by right. Okay. Now, a couple of other items that are allowed by right, I don't think we would certainly say fit in. How about an intentional community? 3 or more lots. How about an automotive graveyard? Don't want to put that there. So again, let's talk about those things that fit in, which again, social temporary events certainly do, and so does this facility itself. The proposed use, number 3, proposed use is adequately served by public or private services, and yes, a well and a drain field certainly would accommodate that. We had a large discussion about whether this could actually grow larger, and the occupancy is limited to 300 people. By the size of this facility, it's limited to 300 people. That does not require fire suppression. If we were to go larger, fire suppression would be required. And then you're talking about a larger well, you're talking about storage tanks, pump system, and things like that. That itself would also impact or potentially impact some of the other services that are around. The proposed use shall not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of any feature determined to be of significant ecological, scenic, or historic importance. Okay. So with that, this will not disturb wetlands. It will not disturb any other historic areas or other things, in spite of what was proposed by the statement in the letters. Okay?
Thank you. We may call you back.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing on special use permit 326, a banquet hall. I'm going to call forth the folks that have signed up. I want to remind y'all about the protocol for public hearings. You're limited to 3 minutes, so please be concise with what it is you have to say. If there's a group of people, you should have one person speaking for the group, and then that person can take up to 5 minutes. We'll let you know if it looks like you're running over and let you wrap up. And let's see. I think that's about it. You will have to give your name and your address when you come up, and so I will open the public hearing. And the first one on our list is Al Weed. And please give your address.
My name is Al Weed. I live at 1362 Fortune's Cove Lane in Livingston. 30 years ago, this board made the bold decision to set aside a search for manufacturing jobs and build on what Wintergreen's success had started, a rural tourism industry. You hired Frankie Love to lead this effort, and she very soon completed one of the first tourism readiness studies in rural Virginia. Nelson's thoughtful consideration of its rural assets led to a downzoning that makes us unique in our region. We control the growth debate. As a rural county, our citizens enjoy a range of amenities that few others can claim. These are businesses that thrive by serving visitors, yet we also enjoy them. Wintergreen aside, the strength of tourism as an economic engine is in how it encourages incremental investment. Local citizens can find business opportunities available for those with minimal capital and lots of sweat equity. Mr. Sklar's proposed event venue is a perfect response to the investment opportunities presented by the county's emphasis on tourism. It is appropriately scaled, ideally located, and its design complementary to the rural countryside. Sitting in the middle of a large hayfield, the barn would be part of the rural viewscape in Fallbrook. Not only is it in one of the county's key gateways, it has the promise to draw tourism development energy onto the US 29 corridor and away from Route 151. An attractive event venue will be a catalyst for tourism growth as visitors attend events, eat at our restaurants, visit our attractions, and go home singing the praises of rural Nelson. The value and effectiveness of this word-of-mouth advertising cannot be matched. Mr. Sklar could have created a farm winery or brewery, which would have largely exempted him from local ordinances. But instead, he chose to honor the local zoning process. He has promised to be a good neighbor, and I can personally vouch for him in this regard. Mr. Sklar has owned a residence right next to my winery, which has been an Airbnb property for many years. Every neighbor in our cove can cite examples of how he has personally responded immediately to local concerns about visitor behavior. All of us understand that change is inevitable, but too often we cannot see into the future to make present choices. In this case, the future is less murky. You can support a minimally impactful project, a barn after all, that is proposed in direct response to a county policy of encouraging tourism for its economic benefits to us all, or you can hold your breath till someone comes along and undertakes a by right residential development on this 320-acre farm. Under our current zoning ordinance, this could, by right, lead to an additional 23 homes concentrated in the following community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Next, we have Kenneth Seitz.
I'm Kenny Sykes. I live at 12898 Rockfish River Road and own a couple properties on Rock Spring Road. And I just have a quick comment to say that I'm in support of Mr. Sklar's plans. I didn't see any problems with the church or the rescue squad or fire department having events, shooting matches, at other events at their places, even funerals at the church today, may have 100, 150 people. And there's never been a problem with that. So I don't see a problem with what he's planning on doing. That's about all I have to say.
Thank you. Greg Amante.
Good evening. My name is Greg Amante. I'm at 1305 Rock Spring Road. I'm the guy who overpaid for the house that he wanted, I guess. Good evening, gentlemen. I drove over 12 hours to be here with you tonight. That's how important I think this meeting is. I come here in opposition to this plan that's being presented to you. It's nothing personal. In fact, Mr. Sklar, Randy, and I, we seem to have a similar story. We both bought our houses from Ida Mae Glidden, who called this community her home for over 40 years. Randy and I come from bigger cities. I came here from Chicago, Randy from Richmond. And perhaps we both came here for the same idea, to get a better life. But I think that's where the similarities in us start to fade. Because you see, I don't believe guys like Randy or I should come here and throw a community on its head just so we can live a better life. It's not fair to the people who were here before us. Luckily, this community has you. Each of you are essentially the guardians of this community, the elected gatekeepers entrusted to protect the best interest of this community and the people in it who you serve. You guys know this. It's in your mission statement. If you don't mind, your mission statement reads, "It is in the mission of the Board of Supervisors to maintain Nelson County as a beautiful, safe, healthy, and prosperous rural county." I'll skip ahead. "And where the community is well planned to assure respect for and dedication to its traditions and resources." Tell me, gentlemen, how does the certain disruption to the traffic patterns that this project will create, how does that fit into the mission statement? How does the potential dangers of drunk drivers leaving these events and risking lives on our roadways, or even people walking on Rock Spring Road with their child or their dog, how does that coincide with your mission statement? How does the increase in noise pollution, danger to water consumption, disruption to the church, or even that volunteer fire department that's just right up the street, how does that fit in? How does harm to our property values, our ecosystem, our wildlife, and to the natural beauty and landscape that we have all talked about of Nelson County? Tell me, gentlemen, how does any of this fit into your very own mission statement? I urge each of you to consider the consequences of your actions here tonight and the message it will send if you vote to approve this project, that this board cares more about the wants and needs of guys like Randy and I who are coming in than the greater good of the community and the people in it who you serve. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Pat Seitz.
My name is Pat Seitz, and I live at 12898 Rockfish River Road. I've been in Nelson County for 27 years and live not too far from the venue, drive by it every day on my way to work at UVA. And my son came to me about a year or so ago and said he wanted to get married, and we had been looking for a wedding venue. And there are very few wedding venues in Nelson County that do not include wine or beer. And we didn't want to share our venue with that type of crowd. And so I ended up talking with Sarah Aldridge. I attend Rock Spring Church, a member there for many, many years. My son was christened there. And we decided they didn't want a church wedding. They wanted a wedding outdoors. So I went to Sarah Aldridge, who lives right down the street, right across from the crew hall. She's agreed to let us use her field for the wedding, and we'd go to the crew hall for a reception. This venue would be much better for us as a family because we could do it all in one spot. It'd be safe, it'd be in a nice area, and I'm in full support of this. Like I say, I attend Rock Spring Church, been to many funerals there, plan to be buried there in the cemetery. So I don't see a problem with this. I think it'll be an asset to the community. I think it will be very well received, and it's an excellent addition to Nelson County.
Diana Tyler.
Diana Tyler, I live at 7960 Fulber Road. I have been a member of Rock Spring since I was born in 1950. That was our family church. We've all lived in that area for all these years. And I do think that this will change the character of our community, especially if it's going to be 3 or 4 big venues a week with traffic, noise. Like I said, the access road is coming from Church Lane, which I do a lot onto Irish Road, is the worst possible pullout that you have on Irish Road anywhere. It's far better pulling out from the driveway that's already there onto Irish because you can at least pull up and see. You don't have to put your car out in the road to actually see what's coming the other way. The whole thing is just, it's just, I think it's a point now where it's gotten kind of neighbor against neighbor, which is not what we're about, especially in Nelson County, and especially in Fall. And I don't want Irish Road to become like 151. And we all know what that is on Saturdays or when everybody has a party or whatever. We don't want that kind of activity in Fall, whether it be once a month or 3 times a week or whatever. I just think it's not something that I want to see happen, but of course that decision is up to you all. Thank you.
Carl Malou.
My name is Carlton Ballou. I live at 19218 Thomas Nelson Highway, Fallbrook, Virginia. I happen to be an adjoining property owner. You know, there's something besides the scenic beauty and rural character that brings people to Nelson County. And a couple of those things are our individual liberties and private property rights. And, you know, some people come from the big city because they want those kinds of things. Other people come to the big city and want to bring their big city land use restrictions with them. I've always said that in the absence of a compelling public interest to the contrary, a person should be able to do as they please with their property. Now, as an adjoining property owner, or being an adjoining property owner, doesn't constitute a compelling public interest to the contrary. In my opinion of the project, pro or con, is also not a compelling public interest to the contrary. So I support the project.
That's all the people that I have signed up. Is there anyone who would like to also speak to this before I close the public hearing? Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
Looking at me?
Well, and whoever would like to start.
Sure. Let me turn my mic on. Well, first and foremost, it's so nice to see many Rock Springs people here. As you all know, that is a family church of mine and a family gravesite. And I have dozens of relatives out back. They're still members, they just haven't left. You know, Faber is a very unique area, you know, and as we look at these criteria points, you should not tend to change the character, harmony within the permanent by right zoning. Make sure it's adequately served by public or private services. You know, I'm just going to open up and to start out and say that with or without, if this barn didn't happen, I think we should complain about that intersection anyway. Okay. And I think that's a directive that we can do today, because that shouldn't be that difficult to make that left. It's already dangerous. It has been historically, but at the same time, you know, we talk about funerals and weddings, and I've been to my own relatives' weddings or funerals there, and it surpassed 150 people, cousins, aunts, uncles, and the whole 9 yards. And, you know, there's that somber side of that, you know, where I understand. But at the same time, I got to thinking about my grandfather who was buried, Theodore, and Miss Tyler remembers him. And so did the sites and my uncle over there, you know. And I got to thinking about what would my uncle say about the general character of Faber. And to know about the history of my family, I have to remind the character of it has changed so much. And the one thing that we sit here, sometimes change is a good thing. And my family, they made their living in Faber. You know, there were Coopers down there over there near the Faber Depot, right back in the 1920s. You know, they made most of their living down the Schuyler quarries. We watched the general character of Schuyler change, and it wasn't good. Okay. And, you know, because we try to keep it the same. And by keeping it the same, jobs left, housing depreciated to nothing. And if you want to talk about struggle, someone come take a ride with me down through Stumptown, and I'll show you what struggle looks like and what happens when jobs leave our community. When we talk about, you know, the volunteer fire department, do you guys know that there's not enough people they're struggling with volunteers right now? They can barely make calls. Why? Because we're losing our young folk. You know, we're losing our volunteerism, and that's that community that we talk about. And, you know, as I sit here and think about it, it's like, you know, when you hear about 20 new houses coming there, it's like, well, I hope they have, you know, can make 10, 16-year-olds who might be willing to go run a structure fire. because that's where we're getting as a community. I think this particular venue, it looks like it's a barn, He has the right to do the activity of weddings already. I would venture to say it would be more character changing for the outdoor music, out there than indoor music, because then it's, more intrusive. As I look at this, I do not see this being much of a change of character. If anything, it's going to bring 3 to 4 maybe temporary jobs to locals, and that's a good thing. I can't tell you how many 16-year-olds or young folks down the street, in Schuyler who just need something just so that they could put gas in their car to get from Stumptown to Charlottesville to K-Tech. There's a lot of them. And Nelson County's got a tough story, and that area used to be a thriving community. I don't think this is going to really change too much. He has the right to clear cut the entire mountain, which I think would be so sad. But with this opportunity, it probably won't do that, because you know what? People pay for the view. And when you say it's $1 million view, no, it's a $2 million view. I think Randy can attest to that, and many others around there. As I look at the conditions that have been proposed, and I'm going to need, before any motions happen, and of course, more comments, of course, I'm not going to do that. I just want to confirm the coffers after the board's done with commenting. That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
My turn.
Please.
First, I have a couple of questions. On the additional conditions submitted by the applicant, number 6, I think this is a typo, or I'm not understanding, but it says on Friday and Saturday, amplified noise will not commence until after 9 a.m. and stop at 10 p.m. But the event will end by 9 p.m. The way this is worded, the event will end and the music will keep playing for an hour. I think maybe did it mean to, yes, thank you.
That's my fault. It's a typo. It should be the event will end by 11 p.m.
And, okay, so the music will stop at 10, the event will end by 11.
That's correct.
Okay. I was gonna say that didn't add up to me. Okay. 3 years? I haven't seen anything, unless I'm missing something. What's gonna take 3 years?
Well, have a shortage of lumber, or we have I don't know. I don't have any intentions of holding the project up.
I can't imagine you're gonna, start getting any return on your investment if you wait 3 years to build a barn. I would assume you probably,
Yeah.
but I'm just curious. I didn't see anything in the plans that looked like it's a 3-year project.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna take that long. We struggled with the house, for all the, obvious reasons, and shortage of labor, and, trying to bring people from Richmond. I argued with the builder, used locals. I'm not telling the artist how to paint his picture. I'm just paying for the end result. And so finally, he did start using a lot of the local people, and it moved it along, and it helped it out, thanks to a lot of the people. So, I just don't want to I don't have to come back here and grovel again to ask. So, I didn't know that once I started, if I did anything, I just don't.
Yeah, I think one thing that we've had as a board before, Mr. Parr, is it's the moment something is erected, correct? Dylan, that would consider the commencement of work.
I do have a county attorney opinion on what that means.
Yeah.
Construction and diligently pursued.
Yeah.
I'd have to review it, but essentially it's any grading or excavation, putting together of materials. But I can speak to that question a little bit too. Sometimes I've seen in the past where special use permit approval has a year to get started on the project. With COVID, of course, there's been delays. We haven't had any, but they become void. The board has the authority to grant additional time. One thing I have seen hold projects up is stormwater approval from DEQ as well. So just depending on where they are in that process as well, could hold the project up.
Yeah.
What is the process for giving extension of time?
You can grant it now if you approve the special use permit. If they're getting close to the expiration date, they can come back to you before that expiration date and ask for an extension. We've done that before as
They have
well.
to come to us, they can't come to you.
Correct.
Yeah.
I cannot grant an administrative extension on a special use permit.
A year and 6 months. Year and 6 months.
Thank you.
It's a, yeah.
So when I look at this, first thing I think of on one of these is VDOT. And I know we've got one issue at Church and Irish Road. That's a VDOT issue. And that's something that needs to be addressed.
And we need to make that correct.
But we have VDOT approval here on the entrance. So that's one thing that's done. Then I look at the general standards, and I promise not to get as in-depth as someone did earlier, but just hitting the highlights. The way I see it, changing the character, I wish this was going across the road from my house. I had an overpriced piece of property across the road from me that I couldn't justify purchasing, and the developer bought it and put something on it that I wish looked like what you're building. So I would welcome this view across the road from my house. But does it change the character and establish pattern? No, I do not feel it does. Is it in harmony with the uses permitted by right? I feel it is. Adequately served? Absolutely. And I have not heard any concerns from Dylan on significant ecological or scenic or historical importance. So from that standpoint, I feel one of our responsibilities is also to take the emotion out of this decision and check the boxes and look at the overall picture. And so I'm going to be in support of the project. So that's all I have to say.
Now, the one thing that did hit me was the 3-year thing. And I think I'm not sure I want to do 3 years or not, because you can come back. That I got to think about.
She wants to be married in a barn this October, which clearly isn't gonna happen. And so next October, we've told our group of family and friends that they're gonna come. And I said, we can't put that in concrete yet because we haven't had this. I don't wanna come back. As fun as this has been, exciting.
Well, but you won't have to come back as long as something's going on.
Progressed.
Well, and I intend to do that. Maybe it'll be a gravel shortage. I don't know. I asked if it hit me actually just this morning thinking about it that maybe I should inquire. And I said, what if we just did 2 years? And then I said, well, what if 3 years? That's not a major point of contention for me. I got a good barn built.
But not wait too long.
I know.
There are other options out there.
Probably better.
I wouldn't have a problem with 2 years. With a year extension. You get the year and then a year extension.
I agree with him because, so much what's happening is we're buying you.
I'm sorry.
We're buying you. I mean, you've made certain things that you've spoken
Right.
of that we are
Right.
buying you. We think you're being honest.
And
To move that 2 years gives us a little bit more control and see
That's
what
fine.
you're about.
I've been a neighbor next to an event. I'm next door to Mr. Weed, and I've heard music coming from his property, and I understand. But I have had conflict and issues, and we've worked it out.
But there are a couple things. I mean, you talked about VDOT issue. It's really a kind of weird place.
It is. It's not
Route 6.
Hey.
And it's not a minor thing about a person wanting to maintain the beauty of where they live. But I'm convinced that you're committed to that.
I am committed. I love that property.
And people, it's just judge your character, which is not the best way to do things maybe, but the way I do things. And good luck. and you have wonderful neighbors and,
I do.
and try to live up to what
That's my intention.
you said to them.
I was one of the naysayers in the, during the planning commission. And I'm moved by what my colleagues and many of the folks in public hearing have said. And I think in a few minutes, I don't know if I'm gonna change my mind or not, I don't think I am. But I do feel that it does change the character.
Yeah.
But we also have another problem in the county, which I always bring up at times like this, which is we have some serious problems with what can be done by right that are fairly egregious in the county that do change the character in major ways, but they are allowed by right. So, and I'm aware that we're working to try to clear these things up. It's a long process. It's not going to happen for a while. And so for me, it's a question of timing and the fact that we don't have the zoning ordinance in ways that I would like to see it still means that I still have to go by what the zoning ordinance says. I can't just, hold it for ransom because I don't agree with it. That being said, I want to thank all the people that spoke tonight and look forward to having a vote on this.
One thing, Ernie, is what he's got right now, the way it's zoned, he can do just about everything he wants to anyway. And there's a lot more that he could do
I'm aware of that.
that he's committing to something that's going to make a lot of other things impossible to happen. I mean, like I said, the last thing you want to see is going in and do a subdivision. I mean, that would change the character of Fallon.
But we wouldn't be able to do anything about it.
The realtor pressured us to divide it and sell it.
Yeah.
And I said, I want it as it is, and if I can get everything connected to it. And as Greg said, he outbid me on the small parcel that belonged to the Miss Ida. And I also invited Ida and her family to my new home. Her last wish was to sit on her porch and look and see the cattle. And when Mr. Atkins came and said he needed to bring the cattle over to please the ag use tax man, I immediately emailed them and invited them to come stay. I don't know if they would.
So what's the pleasure?
Got it. All right. So, Dylan, you could, I'm going to say the proffers. Can you tell me if I said it right or wrong? Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve SUP number 326 Banquet Hall, Sklar 8761 Irish Road, with the following proffers that were given to us, which included owner and event manager will be on site for each event. Large events, 70 or more cars will be limited to 3 per week in the months of June and October. Large events will be limited to 3 per month in March, April, May, and September. Large events of 70 or more cars will be limited to 2 per month in January, February, July, August, November, December. On Sunday through Thursday, amplified music will not commence until afternoon and stop by 9 p.m. And there's that typo in there, so I guess that means what's that?
You're good on that one, keep going.
All right, I'm good on that one. Good. On Friday and Saturday, amplified noise will not commence until after 9 a.m. and stop by 10 p.m. The event will, all right. Traffic control will be in accordance with the event traffic management plan. Church worship services and associated activities, Sunday school, VBS, church-sponsored youth activities are exempt from limited number of activities and amplified noise commencement time. Traffic management and termination times still apply.
Did you want to add the first 4?
Jesse,
What's that? Did I do something wrong? What?
that whole thing is
You want me to just exit?
exit.
All right, no proffers. But I don't know.
I don't think you need,
Okay.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is that it won't conflict with the church and stuff. That and then maybe some adjustment ramp on both sides.
Okay.
But to have it, it's like almost, you do a business and then you say, okay, you can only open from this aisle to this aisle.
Those are
and,
proffers submitted by the applicant, not by the planning commission.
I realize that.
Okay.
I still don't like them.
The purpose of the conditions is, as you know, to mitigate any negative impacts that the project would have on the community, and they felt those would help do that.
You know, he volunteered him. I think,
Yeah,
I think we're gonna be just fine. He'll be fine.
with no profits.
And if he wants to change it, he can call us.
How do you feel about the top four that were staff and also planning commission recommended?
Okay.
They're right above it in the staff report.
So you go 7 days a week, you gonna monitor this down there and make sure that everything's going on right.
No.
The parking areas and structure shall be screened with landscape.
Yeah,
I'm, all right, don't put that in the motion yet. Obviously, we have to do a final site plan in compliance. That's standard, correct? So number one's fine.
That ought to be on there.
Yeah, I think that should be on there. Lighting shall be directional and glare shielded to prevent pollution to adjoining properties. I think that's should be fine. Amplified noise shall be directed away from the roadway to adjoining properties. I mean, I don't think you're gonna ever be able to police that.
that was one that came up in the planning commission meeting when they were talking about the orientation of the barn and how it was pointed towards the back of the property, towards the mountain.
And what do we qualify as screened with landscaping? Can that just be a blue spruce that's a year old and you put it up?
There's an ordinance that is associated.
All right, let's X that out. I mean, I would, all right, so one in, well, I guess that just leaves me. Keep it all four.
What are you doing? I mean,
It's all overkill.
It's all overkill. Keep it the way it is.
I mean,
Just keep
the
all
whole
four.
conversation's
Look at
been
number
about
one,
these.
look at number one, you
No, that's
does not challenge the
that's-
character and style.
That has nothing to do with my motion. All right, I'm gonna make the motion with the,
You're starting over, correct?
yes, I'm gonna start over again. 1 through 8, which he volunteered proffers. Got it? That, we already did that.
With those included.
With those are included. Now with the 4 from the planning commission, we're only gonna go with number 1 and number 3.
Number 1 and number 3.
Final site plan and lighting shall be directional and glare shielded to prevent pollution to adjoining properties or roadways.
And then all 8 submitted by the applicant.
Correct. We're gonna go with what he wants.
Are you motioning for any time period longer than the 1 year?
2 years.
2 years
1 year
total?
with a 1 year.
1 year with a 1-year extension.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
That's my motion. You got it? Clear as mud?
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. I'd like some clarification. Please review the 2 proffers that have been deleted.
Okay. The 2 I have eliminated are that the parking area and structure be screened with landscaping. That's number 2. And number 4, amplified noise be directed away from roadway and adjoining properties.
I don't know how they'll ever be able to police that.
Well, it's not a question of policing, it's a question of doing something that's going to have a less impact on the character of the community, and sound changes the character of everything.
And you can do amazing things with sound, believe me, I live next door to the sound engineer.
All right, I'm gonna amend my motion. We can add that one in there.
Thank you.
Just number 4.
Number
the
4.
amplified noise.
All right, no more.
Then I'm gonna ask, why delete them 2?
All right, all right, fine. All of it. We're doing all of it. Motion for all of it.
All of the conditions.
All the conditions
listed in
from the planning
staff
commission
report
and all the proffers
with an additional 1 year extension.
with an additional year extension.
Okay, do you have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Which who do we have the second from?
Skip.
Skip? Oh, no, looks like David. Okay,
David.
thanks, Steve. Okay. So we now have a motion and a second. I think it's clear. Is there any further discussion?
That took too long.
Okay.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Okay. Bathroom. Congratulations.
Okay, we now have special use permit 344, campground. Thank you all for coming and for speaking.
I'll see y'all at church.
Sure, yeah.
I'll see you.
Haven't seen you there in a while.
I know. I'm not Methodist anymore. I'm Baptist.
Okay.
I was never Methodist.
Ready for me?
Special use permit 344, campground,
All right.
2 sites.
Okay, request for special use permit for a campground use on property zone A1 agriculture. The planning commission public hearing was held on July 28th. It's located at 2989 Fork Mountain Lane in the West District. It's at the very end of Fork Mountain Lane in Montebello. Property is about 60 acres, owned by Sam Eggleston. It's a land trust. He's proposing to establish 2 RV campsites for rental purposes, so just the sites, no RVs. The dwelling on the property was demolished earlier this year. According to the narrative provided, the campsites are 2 gravel parking pads with access to existing electrical, septic, and water hookups. Zoning in the vicinity is A1 and C1 and abuts the George Washington National Forest. There's a gravel driveway, runs approximately 600 feet from the end of the road to the campsites. VDOT did not have any comments. Health Department did not have any comments. They don't regulate campgrounds until you hit 3 sites. At their meeting on July 28th, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the application 6-0 with no recommended conditions.
Okay, is there anything the applicant would like to add to that?
I'm just here to answer any questions if you have.
Okay.
And he wished he went first, that we did it first.
We wanted him to know what that seat feels like.
Dylan, what do we do with that other one that was over on Taylor's Creek that?
She pulled hers.
Well, I
She
know
withdrew
it,
that.
But we were saying that, you know, intent of the ordinance is not for 1 and 2 sites.
That's something we're working on as part of our lodging ordinance update, trying to figure out the best way to update that regulation. Probably something more aligned with what the health department does. It's something like a minimum acreage for just 2 sites. It's something we're talking about right now.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing for special use permit number 344. If anyone would like to speak, you can do it now. I will close the public hearing. And any further questions or discussion before we look at a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve, I'm trying to find how it's listed. Special use permit 344, as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes,
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes. Thank you.
Is that faster than a ticket?
I apologize. Should we guys run first?
We have an amendment to the Code of Nelson County, Chapter 11 taxation.
The proposed amendment would abbreviate the period of time the Board of Equalization would sit in lieu of sitting for a year. The applications for equalization would have to be submitted to the board by April 15th, and the board would have till June 1st to conclude its work. This is pursuant to state, allowed by state law, and there's an added section that indicates that any gig runs fall on Saturday or Sunday for legal holiday, the next business day will count, so to say. This would add a new section to the county
That's good.
tax, to chapter 11 of the county code. This is not precedent setting. The board has acted on this previously, in previous general assessments. This would make this requirement permanent in the county code, unless amended.
Okay. Do you have a recommendation to approve this?
Yes, after public hearing.
We always do that.
I'd like to open the public hearing. On the aforementioned amendment to the Code of Nelson, Chapter 11, taxation. Anyone's willing to speak, they can do it now. If not, I will close the public hearing.
We do this every year, every other year. I don't remember doing this before.
No, it's been done probably 4 and 5 previous assessments ago, then we missed bringing it forward to the board in the last 2 or 3.
Oh.
So it's not, as I said, precedent setting, it's just,
Yeah,
we forgot to bring it forward.
all right.
This changes it by making it permanent, we won't have to remember.
What's the resolution number?
You gotta close the public hearing.
I have.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the amendment to the Code of Nelson County, Chapter 11, taxation as presented.
Second.
I think Mr. Parr snuck in under the wire there for the second. Would you call roll, Ms. Meyer?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Skip was not present.
Okay. Do we have any other business to bring up this evening?
I move to adjourn.
Oh, do we have more stuff?
What? That's a motion.
You want to leave
Second.
vote, Chip? I mean, Skip?
I think he'll live.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Second. There.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes. Thank you.
Decorum? No. I like all of that.